On behalf of Peliton, I'd like to welcome you to the final installment in our 2010 Where the Leaders Are Headed Seminar Series. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Randy Hake, and I'm the president of the Peliton Holding Company. The program we have this morning is, I think, very topical, as most are these. And so I want to make it as interactive as we usually do. If you all have questions during the presentation, please stop us, ask questions. It makes it more interactive in the process. We're also testing out a little bit of embedded technology in today's presentation that I'll be interested in your comments and feedback on. So to kind of get started this morning, this is the agenda. We've got some fabulous guest speakers from EKS&H that will be walking through the value of trust and how to establish that in an organization, and ultimately how to take something that sounds fairly soft and turn it into an ROI comparison that is real meaningful in terms of being able to measure that. And then, if you recall back a few seminars, we talked about social networking in terms of what it could mean to your business to grow your business. I'm going to talk a little bit this morning about how to protect our business and protect our business assets and our employees with all the social networking that's going on. So there's several things in the news, and we'll talk about those as part of the presentation this morning. For those of you that are staying for lunch, it'll be in this same room the way it's been, and so look forward to the good interaction. One of the sponsors this morning is First Insurance Funding Corp. They are a premier funder of insurance premiums, and so just wanted to mention and say that quick thank you to them. And that gets us over into getting started, okay? So I have the fortunate pleasure this morning to introduce two gentlemen from EKS&H, Kent McSparran and A.J. Steger. I'm going to get that right. Kent is the principal in charge of the EKS&H consulting services practice, and EKS&H is the leading Colorado-based CPA firm in all of Colorado. So again, our business models align very closely with theirs, and so we're real pleased to have them here this morning. A.J. is a partner in that same business consulting services practice. Both of these gentlemen have extensive backgrounds in consulting, and that's a piece of their business that I think is fairly unique, driven a little bit differently than the normal CPA type of practice. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Mr. Kent McSparran. Please welcome him. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you. Can you hear me okay? Oh, there we go. We appreciate the opportunity to be here. Let me get out of the way of the screen and talk a little bit about a soft topic that we believe has hard results, and it's always an interesting thing. Thank you. It's always an interesting thing. How many of you are involved in either selling or delivering a service as part of your business? Almost everybody in the room. I've been in the service business my whole career, and I've always believed, and I think the research we've done on this topic has reinforced, in order to sell a service, there's one critical ingredient, and it's trust. Trust is a little more complex than just a simple word, though. In order for a customer to buy a service from you or from me, they have to trust two things. They, one, have to trust your competence. Can you solve the problem? Can you do what you say you're going to do? And second, they have to trust your intent or your motive. And if either one of those trust barriers are broken, you tend not to close business as a service company. And we're gonna go into depth on that topic. But in my mind, it becomes such a critical element of success in business. Likewise with a team. I know all of you are members of a team of some sort. And we've done a lot of study of teams and the function and dysfunction of teams. And quite frankly, we've worked with a lot of dysfunctional management teams in small and mid-sized businesses. And we've come to the conclusion, very similar to the selling of services, that trust is the most important ingredient to a successful team. The teams that achieve their goals tend to have a high degree of trust. Now, this word trust is sort of a loaded word. It means different things to different people. So we're going to spend some time kind of breaking that down and using some resources to do that. But it's really the nature of the topic. But before we do that, let me tell you a little bit about our firm and why we're talking about trust. Because some people will ask, well, what's an accounting firm up here talking about trust? Aren't we all about the bottom line? And the answer is yes, we are about the bottom line. And we think this is an important part of it. But EKS&H, if those of you who are not familiar with our firm, is a public accounting firm with a large consulting practice. It happens to be the largest accounting firm in Colorado. Very unique in the sense that there are very few top 50 markets in the United States where a local firm essentially would be larger than the national firms. That says something about EKS&H, but it says even more about Denver. That this is a small, mid-sized business market. And that's what we serve, is the small to mid-sized business. Since 1978, we've seen very consistent, sustained growth. We've got over 350 CPAs and consulting professionals. We're in the top 50 firms in the United States. And I say this to really talk about this last bullet point at the bottom, which is we believe, while we may not be the most successful company in the world, we think we've built a pretty successful local practice, and we've built it on two things: serving others and building trust. So this topic is not just some academic topic that we're bringing to you. This is something that's really central to us. And we're never satisfied with our level of trust. We're never satisfied with our level of service. But we've spent a lot of time looking at it, and we take it very seriously in our firm. And that's really why we're passionate about this topic. EKS&H is known more as a public accounting firm, but we also have a very large and significant business consulting practice that practices in three areas. We have a transaction services group that helps companies with merger and acquisition work. We have a business finance group, which you would expect an accounting firm to have, which helps clients with debt and equity and financial models and significant financial projects. But really where we're dealing with today is in our what we call our business performance group, where we deal with we help companies with strategy, we help companies with systems, and we help companies with people issues. And that's really the heart of what we're talking about today. This is a people issue. Starts at the top of the organization, but a great trusting organization, what we call a high trust organization, has people engaged at the lowest levels. And study after study have proven, we'll talk a little bit about these, that engaged employees with a high degree of trust are more productive, and they generate greater results for their companies. So this is not just an esoteric topic to make us feel good. This really is a bottom line topic. It's a little soft way of getting there, and it's not an easy way to get there.
I just want to add that. This term trust has certainly been around forever, and I'm sure it comes up in business discussions in the past, but really it's been about in the last couple of years that it seems to have risen to be a more critical topic of discussion around business and around the success of businesses that have it or the failure of businesses that don't. And I have to say that since Kent and I have really gotten into this topic in the last couple of years, the frequency with which we talk with people and we bring up this idea that trust is a critical piece, and they react very strongly in a positive way to say, yes, I've seen it in my own business, or I've seen it in a business that I work with, has been amazing to us. I mean, there's been such a tremendous amount of agreement, I guess, from the business community that this is a critical piece, and we're really onto something. So, and again, it's not just us, as you'll find out. But it's just clear that with the people that we talk with, that this is an important topic and one that is critical that we need to focus on.
no less authority than Peter Drucker, who I believe was the greatest management thinker of the last century, used the term, organizations are no longer built on force, but on trust. If you read the thinkers of current day, Jim Collins talks a lot about trust in both Built to Last and Good to Great and some of his works. And we're gonna really go deeply into two leaders here that if this is a topic you're interested in and you haven't read either or both of these books, we'd suggest great topics. Patrick Lencioni's book, which has really been widely read, many people I know have read this, on the 5 dysfunctions of a team. We're going to pull from his work pretty substantially in this presentation today, because I think he really talks about the translation of trust all the way to results. And it's something that we've used a lot in just facilitating management teams to get to a higher level of functionality. And the other real core resource that we're using in this presentation is Stephen M. R. Covey's book on the speed of trust. Terrific book if you haven't read it, and I highly recommend it. Stephen M. R. Covey is Stephen Covey's son, and while Stephen Covey probably was a great contributor to organizational design in the last century, I think his son is even more significant going forward because he gets this idea of trust and really covers it very well. So we're pulling heavily from these two resources as we're going to present this material to you. And this slide is really the first step of the meat of the concept, and that is and this is directly from Lencioni's book on the 5 dysfunctions of a team. But if you start at the top, dysfunctional teams tend not to attain results, and they fail. But you have to trace the root of the failure back about 5 steps to the bottom of this pyramid to trust. That what happens in an organization when there's not trust among the management team is how I usually see this come across. If there's not trust in the management team, they have what he calls artificial harmony or invulnerability. They get to a point where an organization, when they don't trust, they don't communicate. And most of you have probably sat in a room, I certainly have, of leaders or managers where they simply don't say what they think. And it's really the first sign of a low trust environment is when people don't say what they think. There's a lot of reasons why they may not say that, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But what happens is when there's an absence of trust, there's a fear of conflict, and the team doesn't engage in constructive conflict around ideas. And as a result, when you don't engage, when you don't say what you think in a meeting, the teams leave the room with a lack of commitment. They're not committed to any decision that may have been made. And when the team's not committed, you don't have accountability. They're not accountable for the results, for the outcomes. And when you don't have accountability, organizations don't achieve their goals. It's a very simple process, but let me give you an example of a company that I've been working with that has exactly this issue. It was a slightly dysfunctional team. We see them all across the board. Every team has dysfunction at some level. So this isn't about pointing fingers or looking at good and bad, but every team has some level of dysfunction. But we've seen some pretty bad ones.